morning, children. In the previous class, we studied about Civics chapter, and the name of the chapter is Understanding Laws. Today, we are going to understand Part 2. In the previous class, children, I told you about what are laws and are there equal laws for everyone? And we also studied that there is equality in the eyes of law and nobody is discriminated or differentiated. If anybody does the crime, whether a rich or a poor, a celebrity or a normal citizen, there is same punishment for each and everyone. And we also studied why there is a need and how the need occurs for framing new laws. And we also discussed the procedure for making new laws and how these laws, they are executed and implemented all around the country. Today, we are going to study Part 2 of the same chapter. And today we are going to study about the domestic violence and the different acts and the laws made to protect the women from the domestic violence. And also some other articles we are going to study today. Children, we concluded our last class with the explanation of Article 370. I hope you are still remembering what is Article 370 as it is very, very important. Now today we are going to start with another topic, the topic which is very common especially in our country, India, domestic violence. So children, are you familiar with this violence? Of course, yes. Everybody might be knowing about domestic violence, as you might have observed in the movies, in the serials, or at times in your neighborhood. So what is domestic violence? Domestic violence is a pattern of abusive behavior in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain power and control over another intimate partner. And domestic violence can be physical, sexual, emotional, economic, or psychological actions or threats of actions that influence another person. So children, domestic violence in our easy terms, we can say that it is gaining or maintaining power and control over another partner, that is by either beating or abusing or using bad language. So that is domestic violence. And it can be in any form like physical, sexual, emotional, economic or psychological actions. And this includes any behaviors that intimidate, manipulate, humiliate, isolate, frighten, that is the person who is a victim of domestic violence is left isolated, is threatened by the partner who is more powerful, especially the males. So that is domestic violence. Now you might be wondering, if there is domestic violence and of course the females are the victims of domestic violence, so what is our government doing for it? So the government of India, our government, has made the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act in the year 2005. And children, Are you aware? This Domestic Violence Act 2005 is an act of the Parliament of India enacted to protect women from domestic violence, and it was brought into force by the Indian government from 26th of October 2006. So I hope children you have understood what is Domestic Violence Act, and it's better you note down this act in your notebooks, as this act is very important and often asked in your exams. Now children, in the previous class, that is the first part of this chapter, we discussed so many things about the laws, isn't it? And I hope you might be remembering. Now today we are going to study about unpopular and controversial laws. So what is unpopular laws? Parliament passes new laws every year that may be unpopular, means which are not so popular or which are not so famous. So that is unpopular laws. And it is of course passed by the Parliament only. Now what is controversial laws? Controversial law means some of these laws may be unacceptable to people because they could feel law as unfair and harmful. So, they might criticize this law, and when a large number of people criticize a law, do you know what happens? It changes. And if any law is not in favor of any group and ignores the other, it is controversial law. So I hope children now you are very much familiar with this word, controversial and the controversial laws. So this is when the laws, they are based on some unfair and harmful basis, and of course the people won't agree with this law and they might go against it or criticize a law. Then it has to change. And if any law is not in favor of any group or ignores the other, then also it becomes a controversial law, which means that the whole population, all the citizens, they are against this law and only a few number is accepting this law. So that becomes a controversial law. And citizens, children, you all know that they play a very important role in electing their representatives. They also play an important role in helping Parliament perform its representative functioning properly. So citizens of a democratic country like India must be aware of their rights. So as we all are very much aware that the citizens, we the people of India, we have a very important role to play. What role? To elect our representatives, to form the government, and also help the government in functioning properly. So citizens of a democratic country like India, they should be very much aware of their rights. And children, if one is aware of his or her rights, then he should also be aware of his or her duties, because as we all know that rights and duties, they go parallel to each other. So children, that is all. We conclude our chapter, and I hope you have understood the whole chapter, as it is very small, very clear and easy going, and you go through the chapter and try to understand more thoroughly what are laws, why these laws are made, and even the necessity required to make the new laws, and the most important question, the procedure of making laws, and the part played by the different organs of the Parliament in making, framing, and even implementing the laws. So that is all for today. Thank you. Have a good day. Go through the chapter, and in the next class we will be discussing with the question answers and also the key terms of this chapter. Thank you, children.